On my way to Piqua, there's a wind advisory in effect, but I noticed on one of my cameras it looked like I might have a little flooding problem, so I'm going up there to check it out. Gotta wait on the train. Never been out here in the middle of a windstorm. It's a little unnerving. All these trees everywhere. River's up. I'll show you. This is usually where the riverbank is, but as you can see, right now, it's flooded. This calmer water closer to us, that's usually dry land, so you can see the extent of the flooding when the river rises. Well, I'm going to head back into the cabin, change into some work clothes, and then get to work fixing that flooding problem in the front lane. Okay, I've geared up. It's kind of cold out, and I have this coat for working in cold weather up here. I've got this nice hood and all velcroed up. It's colder up here than it was supposed to be, but that's just how it goes. So I have a flooding problem out there that I think I want to deal with. That is where I drive in, and it's flooded, and it's not supposed to be. There's a drain pipe that goes over here into the woods. I think it's plugged up because I had to drive through a little bit of water. It's not that big a deal right now, but let's say the river keeps getting higher and it starts to overflow, which it does, comes through here and it's plugged up. You could really have some flood water out there. Now, I've been able to control it for probably the last 4 years, but I don't know, this bothers me, just seeing that standing water there. It's more than I've ever seen before just from rainfall. That's not from the river rising, that's just from rainfall. Even though it looks gloomy out, we still have an hour of daylight out there because of the time change. I think it's 7:49 tonight is when the sun's supposed to go down. On a normal day, you'd still have about 20 or 30 minutes of light, but on a cloudy day, you get maybe 10. So that's what I'm working with. So I spent the last half hour digging 3 trenches and unplugging that pipe, and it already looks like the lane is draining pretty well. You can see there's still a lot of water over here though. But we'll leave this. I'm going to show you some of my other projects today. I'm going to show you my project to mount a camera that looks over the river. It's a cellular camera. So part of my project is to cut away this honeysuckle here, opening this up so that I can mount the camera on this post on the gazebo looking out at the river, something like that. And then I can tell whether the river's up, whether I'm here or not. I'm going to take a look at the woods back here. I've been having trees removed back here. Had a couple big walnuts taken out. Then there was a windstorm. This all happened last year. It's like a tornado went through. Anybody need to film a disaster movie? It's pretty good. Good spot to do it. Anyway, Oh my goodness. Actually, it looks a lot better. I think Dwayne's been cutting up some wood. Yeah, it looks a lot better than it did last year. So, this is my land. This is the beginning, I guess, turning it into something. What I'm doing right now is I'm walking by a field of bamboo. Here, I'll let you see all that bamboo back there. It goes back pretty far. My dad always wanted to grow bamboo up here for some reason. I'm not even sure why. And he must have spent 5 years, 6 years doing it, trying to get it to grow. Didn't take. Then, you know, he went up here for like maybe a year, 2 years, and it just took off all by itself. Okay, so we're at the edge of the bamboo now. So I'm going to walk the bamboo. Rotate this thing around. I don't know what that's going to do to it. Anyway, I'm going to walk the bamboo. Get an idea how big this thing is. Okay, I'm starting here. I'm walking. Doesn't look really nice and green and cool right now because we're coming off of winter, but it'll go crazy. It will go crazy. Still walking, still bamboo. I don't know if you can see that. Still bamboo. Now we're coming up to a gap. It's actually where they went back to take out some of the trees. So, gap, more bamboo. See? So the bamboo just keeps on going and going and going until finally we get back here to the beginning of the path. That's the beginning of the path. And there's, I don't know if you can see it. I don't have my glasses on. Yeah, it's the old outhouse. Not in service. Hasn't been for years. Actually, it had fallen over face down into the dirt. And the guys propped it back up when they took the trees out. So that's that. So I got a nice old outhouse to look at, I guess. So coming up on the river, and when the river comes up, this is, by the way, this is the river deck behind me. The roof definitely needs cleaning. But anyway, when the river comes up, it can look scary, put it mildly, because the normal, see if we get to where you can see it, the normal river is just, let's see, right in there. And then all of this, you can see the trees. There's the furthest tree that I'm kind of pointing at right there. That's actually the normal riverbank. So all of this is flood waters, up to the edge, flood waters. And the river, normally about 2 feet. When it's really low, it's 1 foot or even lower than a foot. 7 feet is the riverbank. This looks to me about 9, I would guess 9 feet. I think 9.5, something like that. But once it gets above 7 feet, you got flood going. And you probably couldn't see it, but there's like all kinds of stuff floating down the river. Anyway. So, I'm up here. I got on extremely wet shoes because I had to fix that drainage problem, and the only way to do it was you just hop in there and not even think about getting wet feet. It's in the 50s today. It's cold, but not terribly cold. There, sorry, I was holding a hand over it. Not terribly cold, not so cold that if you get your feet wet, you're just like worried about hypothermia or nothing like that, or anything like that. That's nothing to worry about. Okay, so this is the cabin, and this is the shed, and here's the woods in front, and here's the parking area. I gotta practice. I wouldn't make a good weather person at all. Anyway, that back there, by the way, that's where it's flooded across the lane. And it's not supposed to be flooded. That's not supposed to happen. The pipe was plugged up. It's two pipes, and where they joined, a gap had formed, leaves and stuff had gotten down in there, plugged it up. So this water here shouldn't be that bad. Usually it floods a little bit in there because that's the pond, and then in front of the pond it kind of floods, and that was going to be my project, but it's not supposed to be flooded this far out. And actually looks like I did a good job, because the lane where you drive was totally flooded. So it's not nearly as flooded now, but you see there's still this residual. Any low-lying area is going to have trouble discharging this water, and it's just going to be a giant puddle unless I get in there and start digging trenches, which I've done. About every 2 years or so I have to dig trenches, leaves, fill them in, the ground smooths out a little bit. It's my intention to dig one big trench, and you could call that thing a creek, a little creek. And let's see, I'm gonna switch it to the front, and that creek would start right there where the water is coming in, just go right through the middle and just be an indentation in the landscape. Probably go down at least a foot. It would come over here. There's already one drainage pipe. Thinking of adding another drainage pipe. Building this lane up with more gravel. I mean, you can't even tell there's gravel there anymore. So much dirt is worked in. It looks brown and dark and everything. It doesn't look like it's even has gravel. If you look hard, you can see it. You can hear the train in the background. But this is very manageable, especially if I build a little creek to just take this water and channel it. Just give it some direction. And then two pipes and some screens on the pipe so that leaves don't get in there, and I'm not digging down through gravel and taking some metal poles that are bent on the end and wiggling them around in a pipe, and then taking a cut up garden hose and shoving it in there to push out the plug in the pipe, which is what I had to do. Plus, I dug 3 little mini trenches. So there's the hole. You see where the pipe is separated, leaves got down in there. Had to dig down to that. This is actually the first trench that I dug. Then I thought, hey, one's good. Why not do 2? My feet are already wet. And I did that one. And then here's the third one. And believe it or not, in just an hour, that has gotten rid of all of this was wet. You can probably even tell. All this was flooded. In just an hour, that got rid of that. So that shows you how fast. Now that this pipe is draining, by the way, and you can probably even see it even though it's dark. You can see the pipe does its job. 2 pipes would do twice the job, which is what I'm thinking I want. Doesn't have to be as big a pipe, but it's gonna be a big pipe. Anyway, so I'm gonna go reposition some cameras, go in the cabin, warm up my feet. These were not the shoes or socks that I wore up here. I brought along work clothes, thank goodness. So after I'm all dry, I'll change back into normal clothes. One thing I always think about when I'm up here is there's so much potential up here. When I was a kid, it was just so much fun, and it wasn't anything special, you know. As far as landscaping or things like that, it was just a place on the river. It had a patio, and my dad built this gazebo, and he built that deck, the river deck over there. And the river deck is actually next to what we call the motorhome pad. So overgrown right now, but you'd pull your RV up here, and then you don't need to put out your awning because you got this deck and it looks over the river. Pretty cool. I'm using it for storage now. But yeah. Anyway, this is all coming out. All this garbage. Yeah, it's getting too dark to really film though. I mean, you get a little bit of the nighttime ambience, but hard to make things out. So I will see you later. Back into the cabin.